Greetings! I am Herbert Erperderp, and today I'm going to create a piece of terrain using this Flames of War V1 flying bomb sprue from the Open Fire box. As you can see, there isn't a lot to this model, just a ramp and a flying bomb, so it's quick and easy to build. I started with the ramp. None of the parts required much cleaning up, which is always nice, though you should be careful clipping the supports from the sprue, they seemed easily breakable. The whole thing goes together very easily. I glued the parts together using my cutting mat to ensure that they're all nice and straight. I didn't think the ramp was quite long enough out of the box, so I made a resin casting of one of the ramp pieces and glued that on. I think the little bit of extra length really improves the look. Then, on go the supports. They have a slight angle, so be sure to get them all facing the right way. I realised that the extra bits of ramp cause the supports to sit above the ground. My solution is to raise the surface that will be under the supports with some caulk floor tile. Figure out how much you need, and then cut it with a box cutter. This stuff will dull blades fast, so don't use a good knife. Then I take the base, which in this case is an MDF placemat, and decide where you want to position the ramp, and then glue down the piece of caulk tile. Now to cut out some more caulk floor tile to make cement walls. I searched Google Images for some inspiration, and big concrete walls along the side of the ramp seem to have been common. I made a rough measurement of the height at both ends of the ramp, and then I mark out the shapes onto the tile. These tiles are really handy to have around. A pack of 5 cost me about $13. After marking out the sides and some extra bits, I cut them out with my trusty box cutter. You should do this slowly and carefully. Make multiple cuts rather than trying to get through it in one go. You'll achieve a much neater result. I put the ramp in position with the unfinished bomb as a guide for the walls, and then I glued them down. It's really quite simple. It's just a matter of making sure they're straight and roughly in line with each other. Then I marked out extra bits of wall, cut them to size, and glued them in place. The angles and placement of these walls were inspired by another picture of a model I saw, and I figured it would give the piece some nice line of sight blocking places for units to hide, and also just because I thought it would look interesting. Next I got out the green stuff. I marked where the supports on the ramp would be, and I placed some green stuff in appropriate locations. Then after wetting the green stuff to avoid sticking, I pressed the ramp down lightly to create indents. These are just a guide for positioning later, the ramp is going to be painted separately. Then I took my box cutter and made some cuts into the centerpiece to give it a more natural look. In my opinion, caulk doesn't look very much like cement, so I made a thin mix of tiling grout which I then brushed on. Obviously use a throwaway brush for this, it's tiling grout, it will ruin your brushes. This was an experiment for me, and I think it turned out pretty well, though next time I might make the mix a tiny bit thinner. Then while I was waiting for the grout to dry, I figured why not put the bomb together. It was quite easy, just like the ramp. The parts did not require a lot of cleanup, my only complaint is that the front of the engine was a tiny bit miscast, but overall it looks pretty rad. Now to add some interest to the terrain. I decided to try some air drying clay. I used wet fingers to spread it around and form hills and valleys with it, and it was looking quite good. Unfortunately, after it had been drying for a little while, I noticed it was cracking and no longer stuck to the base. I was a bit disappointed, but if you don't try things, you don't learn. So, I fixed the problem with some texture paste. I've used this stuff before and no cracks resulted. It's quite a bit stickier than clay, and it's a little bit more annoying to work with, but eventually I came up with something that I was satisfied with. Here's what I have so far. The next step is painting and adding grass and so forth. I may add another layer of grout to the cement parts, I'm not sure yet. To make painting easier, I've decided to leave the ramp and bomb separate for now. The painting will commence sometime soon. I'm hoping to get it done in a short time and use it in a game, maybe as an objective or just as something cool to hide things behind. It doesn't look like much at the moment, but I think it's going to look great. I've learnt from this project, mostly not to use clay. Hopefully it's been helpful for you too. Thanks for watching. Farewell.